The rain-slicked alley reeked of stale beer and regret, and I had my boot planted firmly on the back of a woman who just kissed another right in front of God and half the squad car. "Get up, freak!" I snarled, my voice slicing through the downpour like a badge-engraved knife, because that's what I was, Officer Elizabeth Harper, the department's unflinching enforcer of order in this godforsaken city. She twisted her head just enough to meet my eyes, her lipstick smeared like a badge of defiance, and whispered, "One day you'll choke on that hate," her words landing heavier than the cuffs I snapped on her wrists. San Francisco, 2015. The city by the bay, where the fog rolled in like a bad conscience and the hills hid 1,000 secrets. I'd been on the force for 12 years, climbing the ranks on a ladder built from blind loyalty and a gut-deep revulsion for anything that didn't fit the straight and narrow script I'd been handed back in rural Ohio. Gays? They were the punchline to locker room jokes, the reason marriages crumbled, the moral rot eating at America's core. I'd busted more drag queens than I could count, cited couples for public indecency, in the Castro like it was my personal crusade. My partner, Detective Marco Ruiz, called me Ice Queen behind my back, not for the chill in my veins, but because I'd freeze out anyone who dared wave a rainbow flag in my patrol route. Little did I know, the case that would shatter me was already brewing in the shadows of that very neighborhood, waiting to drag me under. It started with a call at 3 a.m., the kind that pulls you from a dead sleep with sirens screaming in your skull. "Homicide on Guerrero Street," dispatch crackled through my radio. "Female Vic looks like a hate crime. Get your ass down here, Harper." I rolled out of bed in my Echo Park apartment, the one with the peeling wallpaper and the view of nothing but power lines, chugging black coffee to wash down the bile rising in my throat. By the time I hit the scene, the yellow tape was fluttering like caution flags on a battlefield, and the air hummed with that electric buzz of tragedy fresh off the press. The victim was Sofia Ramirez, 28, a graphic designer with a laugh that could light up dive bars, or so her neighbors said. She'd been beaten to death in her own doorway, blunt force trauma to the head, ribs cracked like wishbones, her rainbow keychain still clutched in her bloodied fist. "No forced entry, no robbery, just pure venomous rage." Scrawled on the wall in red spray paint. "Dyke, go home." My stomach twisted, not from pity, God no, but from the familiar itch of justification. Another one bites the dust in this cesspool of sin. I snapped on gloves, stepping over the pooling blood, my flashlight cutting through the dim hallway like Judgment Day. Marco arrived 10 minutes later, his tie askew and his perpetual 5 o'clock shadow making him look like a rumpled Humphrey Bogart. "Jesus, Liz," he muttered, lighting a cigarette despite the no-smoking tape. "This one's gonna make the headlines. Captain's already breathing down my neck. Once it's solved yesterday." Marco was my anchor, the one who'd pulled me through the academy with his easy grins and shared disdain for the lifestyle. Cuban-American through and through, raised in the Mission District, he got the city's pulse better than anyone. We'd bonded over late-night stakeouts, trading stories of ex-wives and bad divorces, him with his machismo bravado, me with my iron-fisted denial. We canvassed the building, knocking on doors that creaked open to fearful faces. Sofia's neighbor, an elderly Portuguese woman named Mrs. Costa, clutched her rosary like a lifeline. She was a good girl, officer. Quiet. But that girlfriend of hers. Always fighting, voices carrying through the walls. Girlfriend. The word landed like a sucker punch, but I swallowed it down. Names. I barked, pen poised over my notepad. Camila Vargas. They broke up last month, nasty from what I heard. Camila Vargas. The name echoed in my head as we wrapped the scene, the coroner's van swallowing Sofia's body like a bad dream. Back at the station, buried in fluorescent hell, I pulled her file. Camila, 30, bartender at the Salty Siren in the Castro. No priors, a string of community service for LGBTQ youth programs. Her photo stared back at me, dark curls framing a face that was all fire and curve, brown eyes that seemed to pierce right through the paper. I felt a flicker, something unnamed and unwelcome, and slammed the folder shut. "Marco, you take lead on interviewing her," I said, shoving it across the desk. "I don't do touchy-feely." He chuckled, oblivious. "Scared of a little girl talk, Harper? Fine, but you're backing me up. Captain wants us airtight on this." I nodded, but inside the walls were already cracking. That night, sleep evaded me, Sofia's keychain haunting my dreams. Rainbow colors bleeding into gray Ohio skies. My father's voice thundering from the pulpit. Abomination. I woke sweating, the sheets tangled like accusations. The salty siren was a dive straight out of a noir film. Neon flickering over scarred wooden counters. The air thick with cigarette smoke and the low thrum of indie folk. It was a Tuesday slow, the kind of place where secrets fermented in half-empty glasses. Marco and I slid onto stools at the end of the bar, badges glinting under the low lights. "Camila Vargas?" he called out, voice cutting through the murmur. She turned from polishing a tumbler, and the room seemed to hold its breath. Up close, she was even more arresting. Olive skin glowing under the amber lamps, full lips pressed into a line that spoke of nights without end. Her black tank top hugged her frame. Tattooed vines curling up her arms like invitations I had no business accepting. "That's me," she said, voice steady but edged with gravel, like she'd been crying into her pillow for days. Her eyes flicked to me, then away, as if I were just another uniform in a long line of them. "We're sorry for your loss," Marco started the good cop routine. "Sofia Ramirez. We understand you two were close." He let the word hang, fishing. Camila's grip tightened on the rag, knuckles whitening. "Close? Yeah. We were everything. Until the world decided we weren't allowed." She poured us whiskeys without asking, sliding them over with hands that trembled just enough to betray her. "What do you need from me, detectives?" I stayed silent, nursing my drink, watching the way her fingers danced over the bottle, graceful, unapologetic. When she met my gaze again, there was no fear, just a quiet challenge. "You think I did this? Because I loved her wrong." The accusation hung between us, sharp as broken glass. I opened my mouth to snap back, to defend the badge that armored me, but the words stuck. Instead, Marco took over, probing about the breakup, the fights, any enemies Sofia might have had. "Ex-boyfriend from back east," Camila said finally, after a long pull from her own glass. "Jealous type. Kept tabs even after she came out. But hate? That's not him. That's this city, the whispers, the stares. You cops included." Her eyes locked on mine, and for a split second, I saw myself reflected there. The enforcer, the judge, the fraud. We left with her number and a vague promise of follow-up, the whiskey burning a hole in my gut. Driving back through the fog-shrouded streets, Marco lit another smoke. "Tough broad. But something's off. Did you see how she dodged the timeline on that breakup?" I grunted agreement, but my mind was elsewhere, replaying the curve of her neck, the way her laugh lines deepened when she forced a smile for a patron. It was nothing, I told myself. Professional curiosity. But the lie tasted like ash. Days blurred into a frenzy of dead ends. The ex-boyfriend checked out. Alibis solid as concrete. Forensics pulled prints from the scene, but they belonged to Sofia herself. The spray paint can? Bought at a hardware store with cash. No cameras, no leads. The department buzzed with pressure. Protests were brewing in the Castro. Activists chaining themselves to precinct gates, chanting for justice. "Make it quick, Harper," Captain Ellis growled in briefing, his jowls quivering. "Or we'll have the mayor's office up our asses." I volunteered for surveillance on Camila. Off the books, tell Marco it was gut instinct. Nights parked outside her tiny Victorian walk-up in No Valley, watching shadows play across her curtains. She'd pace, phone to her ear, gesturing wildly as if arguing with ghosts. One evening, rain hammering the windshield like accusations, she stepped out onto the stoop, umbrella forgotten, and lit a cigarette. The glow illuminated her face, haunted, beautiful in its fracture. Our eyes met through the downpour. She didn't flinch, just tilted her head, as if daring me to come closer. I drove away, heart pounding like a fugitive. The breakthrough came a week in, courtesy of a tip line call. Anonymous, gravelly voice. "Check the Vic's laptop. Hidden folder. You'll see." We seized the device from evidence lockup, and there it was, encrypted drive, password cracked by tech in under an hour. Emails, photos, a digital diary of love and loss. Sofia and Camila, tangled in sheets and grainy selfies. Love letters typed in haste, promising forever against the odds. But buried deeper threats. Printed screenshots from a fake account, BibleBelter88, spewing venom about recruiting, and fire and brimstone. The IP traced to a VPN, but the language. It hit too close. Rural idioms, church speak. Like home. Then the gut punch. One email forwarded from Camila's address, timestamped the night before the murder. I can't do this anymore, Soph. The pressure. It's killing me. Ambiguous, damning. Marco's eyes narrowed over coffee the next morning. Motive, Liz. Grief turns ugly fast. I shook my head, but doubt wormed in. That night I drove to her place unannounced, badge heavy in my pocket like a noose. She answered in sweatpants and a faded band tee, hair piled in a messy bun, surprise softening her edges. Detective Harper. To what do I owe the midnight inquisition? No venom, just weariness. I held up my phone, the email screenshot glaring. Explain this. Her face crumpled, not in guilt but sorrow. God, Liz, can I call you that? It wasn't what you think. Sophia was spiraling, job loss, family disowning her. I was begging her to fight, not leave. She stepped aside, gesturing me in. Against every protocol screaming in my skull, I crossed the threshold. Her apartment was a sanctuary of chaos. Books stacked like barricades, canvases half-painted with abstract swirls of blue and gold. A worn couch sagging under the weight of unspoken grief. We sat, knees inches apart, the email between us like a live wire. I loved her, Camila whispered, voice cracking. More than air. And now? I'm drowning in what-ifs. Something in me shifted then, a crack in the ice. I reached out, awkward, my hand covering hers. Her skin was warm, alive, and for the first time I didn't pull away. I'm sorry, I murmured, the words foreign on my tongue. For all of it. We talked until dawn, the rain a relentless chorus outside. She shared stories of Sophia, their first date at the pier, stealing kisses under the bridge, the fights born of fear, not fade. I listened, really listened, peeling back layers I'd armored over since puberty's cruel awakening. My own secrets bubbled up unbidden. The college roommate I'd pushed away after one too many lingering glances, the ache I'd buried under badges and bravado. Camila didn't judge. She just nodded, her thumb tracing circles on my wrist, a lifeline in the storm. By week's end, the case cracked wide. Bible Belter 88? A disgruntled ex-cop from my old precinct in Ohio, transferred out after a psych eval flagged his zeal. He'd followed Sophia online after a viral art piece, fixated, driven west by obsession. We nabbed him in a seedy motel off Van Ness, his walls plastered with printouts, a manifesto scrawled in marker, purging the filth. Marco cuffed him, grinning like we'd won the Super Bowl, but victory tasted hollow. The headlines screamed justice, but Sophia's ghost lingered, a reminder of the hate I'd once fueled. Camila and I met at that pier, the one from her stories, fog cloaking us like a confessional. You saved me from myself, I said, voice raw as gulls wheeled overhead. She smiled, tentative, her hand finding mine. No, Liz. You saved you. Our first kiss was salt and tentative hope, the city sprawling below us indifferent to the miracle unfolding. But love, in a world that chews it up, is never simple. Weeks turned to months, and what started as late-night confessions evolved into something terrifyingly real. Camila became my harbor, the one who'd text me dumb memes at 2 a.m. during stakeouts, or leave tamales on my doorstep after brutal shifts, wrapped in foil hearts. We'd steal hours in her apartment, cooking paella from her abuela's recipe, her laughter filling the spaces I'd long kept empty. You're not as scary as you pretend, she'd tease, flicking flour at my nose while I chopped onions, tears blurring the sting. I'd roll my eyes, but inside the thaw was complete. For the first time I saw the Castro not as enemy territory, but home. Rainbow crosswalks like veins pulsing with life, not perversion. Marco noticed, of course. His easy camaraderie soured at the edges, questions laced with barbs over beers at the precinct pub. That Vargas chick, still consulting on the case? He'd probe, eyes narrowing over his pint. I'd deflect with a laugh, but guilt gnawed. He was family, the brother I'd chosen when blood proved too toxic. My father, Pastor Harlan Harper, still preached fire and damnation sermons from his Ohio steeple, forwarding me links to reparative therapy sites like they were love letters. I'd delete them unread, but the echo lingered. Turn back, Lizzie, before it's too late. The betrayal hit like a freight train on a muggy July evening. I just wrapped a domestic call. Shattered vase, bruised cheek, the usual symphony of shattered dreams, when my phone buzzed with Camila's name. Liz, get here. Now. Her voice was a wire, taut and trembling. I sped to No Valley, heart jackhammering, bursting through her door to find her pacing, a manila envelope clutched like a grenade. "Read it," she demanded, thrusting it at me. Inside, printouts, timestamps, metadata, emails from my department account, leaked case details, Sophia's autopsy photos, even my surveillance notes on Camila. The sender? Anonymous, but the watermark screamed internal. SFPD server logs. And there, buried in the code, a user ID I knew by heart, Marcos. I confronted him at his favorite taqueria in the Mission, the one with the Virgin Mary mural watching over us like a judgmental aunt. He was mid-bite, El Pastor dripping down his chin when I slapped the folder down. "What the hell is this, Ruiz?" My voice was steel but cracking at the seams. He wiped his mouth, slow buying time. "Lizzie, sit. It's not what. Save it. You're feeding intel to the press? To activists? For what, a payout? Or just to screw me over because I'm—" I trailed off, the word happy too fragile to voice. His laugh was bitter, stripped of its warmth. "Happy? With her? Come on, Harper. I've seen you unraveling, skipping briefings, showing up late with that glow. This city's eating you alive and you're letting it. Those leaks? They're insurance. If the brass comes sniffing about your conflict of interest, I've got your back covered. But you gotta wake up. This isn't you. Isn't me." Rage boiled over, hot and unbidden. "You don't know me, Marco. Not anymore. You've been playing God with people's pain, Sophia's pain, for your little vendetta against the agenda. I saw the chats, the ones with your buddy from Vice. Time to clean house, right? You're no better than the killer." He stood, chair scraping like a confession. "And you're a traitor to the blue. Sleeping with a suspect? That's career suicide, Liz. Walk away now, or I drag you down with me." The threat hung ugly and final. I left without another word, the door slamming like a guillotine. Betrayal wasn't just the leak. It was the fracture in our brotherhood. The realization that my oldest ally was the monster I'd always projected outward. Camila was waiting when I got back. Her arms a refuge I didn't deserve. We curled on the couch, her head on my shoulder, the envelope a ghost between us. "What now?" she whispered, fingers tracing the badge tattoo I'd gotten in a fit of youthful bravado, now a brand of shame. "I turn him in," I said, resolve hardening like concrete. "And the rest? We'll figure it." But sleep that night was fitful, dreams of blue walls closing in. Marco's face morphing into my father's, both screaming unnatural. The internal affairs probe was a circus. Interviews in sterile rooms, lawyers circling like vultures, the captain's face a thundercloud of disappointment. Marco lawyered up quick, spinning tales of misguided loyalty and protecting a partner. Evidence mounted. Server logs, witness statements from a tech whiz kid and records who'd seen him rifling files. But the whispers followed me. Harper's gone soft. Rainbow batch now. Colleagues who'd clapped my back now averted eyes. The locker room jokes turning pointed, laced with Dyke and Trader. Camila held steady, her bar shifts turning into our war room. She'd brew strong coffee, map out timelines on napkins, her artist's eye spotting connections I'd missed. "You're stronger than this, Liz," she'd say, cupping my face in hands that smelled of limes and hope. "They can't break what we've built." Our love deepened in the crucible, quiet dinners on her fire escape, watching stars pierce the smog. Slow dances to Nina Simone in the kitchen, her body fitting mine like a missing piece. But doubt crept in, insidious as fog. Was I dragging her under? One rainy afternoon, post-interview, I found her sketching a portrait of us intertwined under the bridge, but my face was half-shadowed, fading. "I don't want to lose you to this," I confessed, voice muffled against her hair. She pulled back, eyes fierce. "Then don't. Fight for us, not them." Her words ignited something primal, a vow etched in my bones. The climax erupted at the department's annual gala, a black tie farce in the rotunda where egos bloated on cheap champagne. Marco cornered me by the punch bowl, suit rumpled, breath sour with bourbon. "Last chance, Harper. Drop the IA complaint and we call it even. Your girl's safe, case closed." I straightened, the weight of the room pressing in. Brass and metals, wives and pearls, all oblivious to the rot. "No deal. You're done." His slap was swift, a crack that echoed like gunfire, my cheek blooming red under the chandeliers. Gasps rippled, cameras flashed. You bitch. He hissed low and venomous, ruining everything for some pussy parade. The room froze, then erupted, security swarming, captain hauling him away in cuffs. I stood there, sting fading to numbness, the badge on my dress blues suddenly leaden. Camila, who'd insisted on coming as my +1, pushed through the crowd, her gown a swirl of midnight silk. Liz, she breathed, hand gentle on my swelling jaw. In that moment amid the chaos I saw it clear. This was my truth, unarmored, unashamed. The fallout was biblical. Marco suspended pending dismissal, his confession spilling like bile. Leaks for leverage, resentment festering since I'd changed. IA cleared me, but the damage lingered. Transfers whispered, partnerships dissolved. I took leave, holing up with Camila in a cabin up in Point Reyes, where the ocean roared like absolution. We hiked redwood trails, her hand in mine, the world reduced to salt air and shared silence. What if I quit? I asked one evening, fire crackling as seals barked in the distance. She smiled soft. Then you start over. With me. Back in the city I did. Applied for community outreach, trading cuffs for conversations, panels at youth centers, dialogues in the Castro. My father called once, voice ablade. Heard you're one of them now. Praying for your soul. I hung up, blocking the number. Camila's arms, my new scripture. A year on, the pier again, anniversary of Sophia's death, but also ours. We scattered petals into the bay, whispers of thanks and goodbye. To new beginnings, Camila toasted, her eyes on the horizon. I pulled her close, the fog parting just enough for sunlight to kiss our joined hands. Homophobia hadn't died in me overnight. Scars run deep. But love? It was the revolution I'd never seen coming, fierce, forgiving, utterly American in its defiant hope. No, that wasn't the end. Life, that stubborn bastard, had more twists up its sleeve. 2 years into our rhythm, Camila's art shows drawing crowds, my outreach gig turning skeptics into allies. The call came that shattered the fragile peace. It was a crisp October morning, the kind where eucalyptus scents the air like promise. I was knee-deep in grant proposals for a queer youth hotline when my phone lit up. Unknown Ohio area code. Lizzie. My mother's voice, frail as tissue paper, cracked through the line. It's Dad. Stroke. Doctors say. It might be time. The words landed like stones in still water, ripples disturbing everything. Harlan Harper, the unyielding patriarch, felt. I booked the red-eye, Camila insisting on coming. Family's family, she said, packing with quiet efficiency. Even the broken ones. Ohio unfolded like a faded postcard. Cornfields golden under harvest sun. The air heavy with memory. The family farm loomed, sagging under decades of sermons and silence. My mother met us at the door, her hug brittle, eyes darting to Camila like she was a specter. She's your friend. Mom ventured, voice pitched low. More than that, I replied, chin lifted. Camila squeezed my hand, her presence a shield. Dad lay in the hospice wing of the county hospital, tubes snaking like accusations. His once thunderous frame shrunk into whispers. He stirred when I entered, eyes blue like mine, flickering with recognition. Lizzie, he rasped, the pastor's timbre dulled but unbowed. Heard you've strayed. The room tilted, old wounds reopening. Camila hovered in the hall, giving space, but her absence amplified the echo. Strayed. I echoed, bitterness rising. Dad, I found my way. To love. To truth. He coughed, a wet rattle. Love? That's not God's plan. Repent, child. Before another fit seized him, monitors beeping frantic. I stormed out, tears hot on my cheeks, collapsing into Camila's arms in the parking lot. He'll never see me, I sobbed, the weight of paternal rejection crushing anew. She held me through the night, our motel room a cocoon against the chill, her stories of her own estranged familia a balm. My parents in Miami disowned me when I came out, she murmured, tracing patterns on my back. But look at me, still standing, still loving. The next days blurred. Vigils at his bedside, siblings arriving with Bibles and side eyes, aunts murmuring about that phase. Marco even called. Cleaned up, therapy sober, voice contrite over a crackly line. Heard about your old man. If you need anything. I thanked him, the scar tissue of our fracture tender but healing. Forgiveness, it turned out, was less a grand gesture than a quiet surrender. Dad rallied briefly. Enough for one lucid afternoon in the farm's sunroom, sunlight slanting through lace curtains like hesitant grace. The family gathered, a tense tableau, Camila included at my insistence, perched on the settee, her quiet dignity a rebuke to their discomfort. He gestured me close, breath labored. Tell me. About her. Surprise stilled me. Camila? She's everything. Artist, fighter. Shows me joy I didn't know existed. Words tumbled unfiltered, tales of pure kisses, redwood hikes, the way her laugh chases shadows. His eyes, milky with age, fixed on her across the room. She met them steady, no flinch. A tear tracked his cheek unbidden. I was wrong, Lizzie. Fear. Poisons. Forgive an old fool. The apology hung, raw and revolutionary, the pastor yielding to the man. I do, I whispered, throat tight. He passed that night, peaceful, the monitors him fading to silence. The funeral was a sea of black suits and hymns, eulogies extolling his unwavering faith. I spoke last, voice steady. He taught me righteousness. But love? That I learned elsewhere. From a woman who showed me grace. Murmurs rippled. Mom clutched her handkerchief but nodded, a fragile bridge extended. Back in San Francisco, the city welcomed us with open arms. Fog lifting to reveal blue skies, a rare gift. Camila's latest exhibit, Bridges Unburned, sold out, canvases of intertwined figures against urban sprawls. Mine, a promotion to sergeant in community relations, badge polished with purpose. We bought a fixer-upper in the hate, terracotta pots blooming on the stoop, nights spent sanding floors to the soundtrack of our playlists. Springsteen meets Selena. But drama, that old companion, wasn't done. A letter arrived, postmarked Miami. Camila's mother, Esmeralda Vargas, words scrawled in looping Spanish. Mi hija, we've prayed. Come home. Bring your companion. Holy days approach. Camila stared at it for hours, paper trembling. They saw my interview on Univision about Sophia, the case. Called it a sign. I watched her wrestle, the pull of blood versus chosen family. Go, I urged. We'll go. Together. Florida was humidity and heart. Palm fronds whispering secrets, the ocean a turquoise tease. Esmeralda met us at the airport, silver-streaked hair pulled tight, eyes wary but warm. Hugs were tentative, spiced with cafecito and questions veiled in concern. She's good for you? Mom asked Camila in the kitchen, chopping plantains. Me exiled to the patio with her father, Ramon, a stoic mechanic with hands like leather. More than good, Camila replied, voice firm. She's my heart. The days of the dead brought catharsis, altars for Sophia, Dad, ancestors lost to time. Candles flickered, marigolds bright against photos of the departed. Esmeralda placed a candle for Harlan, unprompted. A man of God like Ramon. Stubborn but learns. Laughter bubbled then, tentative, bridging the chasm. Not all mend it easy. Ramon's silence spoke volumes, grunts over dominoes, eyes averted during grace. One evening, post-feast, he pulled Camila aside on the lanai, cigars glowing like fireflies. I eavesdropped from shadows, heart in throat. Papa, I love her. It's real. Pause heavy. Then honor it, Mija. Don't hide. His embrace when it came was fierce, a dam breaking. We flew home lighter, rings glinting on our fingers, simple bands exchanged in a civil ceremony at City Hall, witnesses a motley crew of barflies and beat cops. The reception? The salty siren packed with toasts and tears, Marco even showing solo, a peace offering of Cuban cigars. To the Ice Queen. He raised his glass, grin crooked. May she never thaw completely. Life settled into poetry, mornings tangled in sheets, Camila's sketches littering our studio. My patrols now patrols of progress. Sensitivity trainings, ally marches. But emotion, that deep well, occasionally overflowed. Anniversaries of Sophia's death brought quiet vigils. Camila's grief a tide that pulled us closer. My own shadows, homophobic echoes from academy days, surfaced in nightmares, only to be chased by her whispers. You're enough. One spring a case echoed the past. Assault on a trans teen in the Tenderloin, graffiti screaming slurs. I led the response, badge a beacon, arresting the perp. A kid barely 20 spewing the hate I'd once internalized. In interrogation, eyes downcast, he muttered. Taught at home. Church says. I leaned in, voice gentle steel. Church lies sometimes. Listen to your heart instead. Camila waited outside, her pride aglow that outshone the fluorescence. Sergeant Harper, saving the world one confession at a time. We walked home arm in arm, city lights winking approval. Years layered like varnish, adoptions whispered of, a rescue pup named Harper, her idea cheeky. Travels to province for wine and wonder. Betrayals faded to footnotes, conflicts to catalysts. The humanistic truth? We're all fractured vessels mending through mercy. Mine came wrapped in dark curls and defiant brown eyes, teaching that love isn't conquest but communion. In the end it's the small graces, her hand in mine on foggy piers, our laughter echoing hills, a truth confronted not in thunder, but in the quiet yes of dawn. Epilogue whispers, but stories like ours demand a coda, raw, resonant, rooted in the American grit that forges us. 5 years post-vows, San Francisco had weathered us smooth. Wildfires scorching the East Bay. A pandemic cloistering us in our hate haven. Emerging leaner, hungrier for touch. Camila's gallery thrived. Her murals now splashed across muni-buses. Vibrant declarations of queer joy. Commissioned by the city in a nod to progress. Me? Sergeant Harper evolved to lieutenant. Helming the department's equity unit. Trading nightsticks for notebooks. Training rookies on bias like a missionary. Yet drama, that eternal shadow, circled back in the form of legacy. Dad's estate settled unevenly. Farm to my brother, savings divvied with riders. No funds to immoral unions. Mom, ever the mediator, mediated in secret. Wiring her widow's mite with a note. For your home. Love wins. We used it for the nursery, walls painted sage. A crib waiting for the foster kid we'd fight for. A girl ate with Camila's fire and my guarded gaze. The conflict reignited at a family reunion. Ohio bound for Mom's 70th. The farm alive with kin under harvest moon. Cousins grilled burgers. Aunts swapped recipes, but undercurrents swirled. Whispers about Lizzie's lifestyle. Eyes sliding over Camila like she was Exhibit A. My brother, Caleb, cornered me by the barn, beer in hand. Face flushed with that Harper righteousness. Dad rolled in his grave, you know. This parade, bringing scandal to the bloodline. Rage simmered, but Camila's hand on my elbow steadied. Scandal. I countered, voice low thunder. Dad apologized, Caleb. On his deathbed. Said he was wrong. You gonna honor that or cling to ghosts? He deflated, mumbling retreat. But the seed of fracture took root. That night, bonfire crackling, stories flowed. Mine included, halting tales of the case that cracked me open. Sophia's keychain, a talisman in my pocket. Silence fell, then Mom's voice. Proud of you, Lizzie. Both of you. Tears traced her cheeks. Camila's followed. Bridges, rickety but real. Betrayal's echo sounded closer to home, though. A leak in my unit, sensitive case files on a hate group. Splashed online, endangering informants. Fingers pointed inward. Audits loomed. Sleepless, I pored over logs in our kitchen, Camila brewing tea, her intuition sharp. It's internal, Liz. Someone close. She was right. My protege, young Officer Tate, ambitious to a fault, selling intel for a promotion bump. The confrontation in the precinct garage was electric. His confession spilling under sodium lights. Remorse warring with ambition. Thought it wouldn't hurt anyone. He lied, eyes down. I cuffed him, gentle, heart heavy. It hurts everyone. Start over. Learn. The scandal rocked the brass. Headlines dubbing it Blue Betrayal Redux. Protests flared anew, but this time I stood with them. Mic in hand at City Hall, voice amplified. We fail when we falter. But we rise when we reckon. Camila watched from the crowd. Her applause the loudest. Our eyes locking in that electric pact. Through it our love deepened, romantic in its rituals. Anniversary escapes to Big Sur. Cliffside picnics with ocean symphonies. Lazy Sundays sketching each other. Lines blurring into laughter. Emotion crested in quiet waves. Camila's vulnerability post-show openings. My armor cracking after tough trainings. You're my anchor, she'd say, forehead to mine. And my sail. The humanistic arc bent toward light with little Elena's arrival. Foster placement turning permanent after a courtroom vigil. Judge's gavel, a grace note. She came wary, braids tight. Eyes wide at our fancy house. Camila won her with empanadas and easels. I with bedtime stories of fierce women warriors. Family, we learned, isn't forged in blood, but baked in belonging. Thanksgiving's blending tamales and turkey. Eleanor's first pride flowed a riot of glitter and grins. Tragedy brushed us still. Sophia's mother, Rosa, passing quietly in Miami, her final letter to Camila a poem of pride. We flew south, scattering ashes in the Atlantic, waves carrying her home. She'd have loved you, Rosa had written. Both. Grief bound us tighter, a tapestry of loss and love. Now a decade in, the pier calls yearly. Ritual of renewal, hands clasped against the rail. Golden Gate a steadfast sentinel. Elena, 13 and towering, sketches the vista, her lines bold as ours. You guys are cheesy, she teases, but her smile betrays. Camila leans into me, wind tousling her silver-threaded curls. Worth the fight. Every damn hill, I reply, kissing her temple. The homophobic officer? A relic exhumed and entombed. In her place, a woman whole loved fiercely, loving back. America, in its messy miracle, taught me that truth not in thunderclaps, but in the tender yes of two souls entwined against the fog. And so we walk on, story unfinished, pages turning toward whatever dawn breaks next.